this stereotypical sentence sound familiar to you?
Women doesn't know how to park. They take ages.
Boys, you're always thinking about sex and football, laying down on the sofa all day long.
Never trust a woman with a map, or you will end in the other side of the world.
Maybe a plant has more feelings than you.
Are you listening to me? You are brainless.
Brainless? Even if a woman can say sometimes that a man is brainless, we all know it's not like that. All humans have a brain, but all the same, even more specific, do men and women have different brains? We are going to try to answer.
Does our brain have a sex?
Let's begin with the basic. What is the brain?
The brain is the most complex organ of our body, which is the center of our nervous system. It is formed by 100 billion of neurons that are connected between each other, creating synapses that at the same time form neuronal networks of information. It's responsible to control the functioning of our body, like thinking, driving a car, or even emotions like laughing. However, does it work equally in men and women?
Not completely. For many years, researchers say that men have more spatial and more abilities, while women have better social and emotional skills. If we look back in time to our ancestors, we can find an evolutionary explanation for these differences. The origin could be that men had to prepare for hunting, so they needed better motor abilities to catch the prey. Instead, women needed social and emotional skills to take care of the children.
Another explanation for these differences could be the connections between hemispheres. Studies done by Rajini Verma at Pennsylvania University in Philadelphia show that there are significant differences in the brain circuitry of men and women. fMRI shows that brain female has more inter-hemisphere connections, while males show more intra-connections. She says, it's like the people driving from Philadelphia to New York, who take different roads, but end up at the same place. These differences in the brain roadmaps, scientifically known as the connectome, can explain also why males outperform females in certain tests of mental skills, while females have the edge in others. But in fact, it's not the only difference we can find.
The size of the brain is different, being the male's one bigger. But it doesn't mean that bigger is smarter. Be honest, size doesn't matter. Or it does.
In some areas, size does matter. On the one hand, scientists found that women have bigger prefrontal cortex related with decision-making and complex reasoning, hippocampus, important for emotions and creating long-term memory, and language areas. However, amygdala is bigger in men, which is mostly activated with a stimulus that causes anger and a motor answer like a punch, and also hypothalamus, a structure linked with endocrinology activity. But why there are these differences?
We know that the hormone prenatal environment influences the development difference between sexes. It's well known that the hormones can affect the development of the brain structures. Differences in dimensions of amygdala and hippocampus could be linked with the density of androgen receptors, masculine hormone, in the amygdala compared with the levels of estrogen receptors, feminine hormones, in hippocampus.
For example, in 2014, the University of Pennsylvania did an experiment related with this. They analyzed a young woman who was exposed to high level of testosterone due to a congenital adrenal hyperplasia. They found out that she had better spatial awareness and more aggressive mood, typical from men. So we could define her like a male-type brain. So, are the differences between sexes enough to talk about brain sex? Or we are more similar than what we believe?
According to the University of Tel Aviv, Institute Max Planck in Leipzig, and the Department of Psychology of Zurich, did a study with 1,400 human brains that was published in 2015. It revealed a huge overlapping between the distributions of features of feminine and masculine brains. In other words, poor masculine or feminine brains are rare. In fact, they found that just 6 in every 100 brains were consistently a single sex. They make us that instead of talking about a feminine and masculine brain, we should talk about a mosaic brain.
This would represent a brain made of unique characteristics, some of them more common in women, others more common in men, but always shared in a level or another. This high heterogeneity and overlapping features is a characteristic composition of a mosaic brain. Such a mosaic of features cannot be explained in purely biological terms. It is a measure of the effect of external factors. This is true even at the most fundamental layers.
For example, it can be shown that a characteristically male density of the dendritic spines or branches of a nerve cell can be changed to the female form simply by the application of a mild external stress. Biological sex alone cannot explain brain differences. To do so requires an understanding of how, when, and to what extent external events affect the structure of the brain.
To conclude, as Vermeer shows us, individuals of both sexes can have large variations in their abilities. For example, I have 3 math degrees but no sense of direction.